Exactly. No, he's doing a good job with it. But he also said he's the highest paid fighter in Bellator. I mean, and just all kinds of like silly stuff. You know, it's just like, dude. No.
Is that what he said?
Oh, yeah.
So he's Chael Sonnen it a little bit.
Oh, yeah, he's a dork, man. Just huge dork. So it's just like one of those things where it's
But when a guy's making his debut and you are a world champion or a former world champion at this point, what inspires you to call a guy like that out?
Just because, I mean.
Doesn't it help him?
Yeah, I guess it does. But it also, I mean, I also woke up to 150 mentions on Twitter, so it's like, well, at least people are talking. You know, at least people are talking. I mean, that's the other thing too is always navigating the narrative and talking about, you know, getting people to talk. You know, getting people to talk about. I mean, over the last couple months, the amount of times, like, as soon as Khabib fought, the amount of people that were just talking like, "Hey, you're the only guy that can match Khabib's wrestling. You're the only guy that could nullify his wrestling." I mean, to get yourself in the conversation, that's what it all is. It's all.
Well, styles definitely make fights, and that was what became very interesting after the Al Iaquinta fight, where people were looking at, okay, what about high-level wrestlers who have more refined striking?
Yeah.
And how do they line up? And Kevin Lee was a big one that people kept talking about, but you were a big one that people kept talking about too.
Yeah.
Because you were saying that you think you could beat him.
100%.
And him, you know, having that fight with Iaquinta, who he was a prohibitive favorite over, but it went the full 5 rounds. And, you know, Iaquinta, although never won a round, showed some chinks in the armor.
So chinks in the armor showed what happens when Khabib can't take you down. I mean, it's tough whenever the one thing that you've always been used to dominating with isn't working, and then you're stuck.
Right.
You know, you're stuck throwing punches, and you're in. You know, he's a little bit behind in the striking aspect. Dude, I've got a ton of respect for the guy.
He's a mauler.
Respect. Mauler. I mean, at certain times he looks unbeatable. He has looked unbeatable where I've looked at it and other people have looked at it, and people that have fought him that I've talked to.
Like the Barboza fight.
Yeah.
Like he just fucking mauled Barboza.
And it's just a battle of wills, man. You're inside of a cage, and it's just like we talked about. I knew I could outpace people. I knew I could out cardio them. I could out tough them, you know. Certain people get to that breaking point and they break and they concede. They go into their shell and they say, "I did a good job, but this one's on him."
Well, guys who don't have that deep wrestling background and they face a guy who does, there's moments in the fight where you see that, where you saw that 1,000-yard stare in Barboza's eyes where he was like, fuck.
Oh,
like, I can't keep doing this. Like,
No.
he goes into defensive survival mode.
Yeah.
And you know, when a guy does have a deep background in wrestling and also can strike, that's what makes it interesting.
Yeah.
And this is why MMA is such a complex sport, because there's so many variables. There's so many techniques you can use. There's so many situations where you might have an advantage or your opponent might have an advantage. And it's just, we live for these matchups, these stylistic matchups. So when something like that happens and a guy like Khabib has a fight where all these questions get presented, that's where a guy like Michael Chandler comes into the mix.
Yeah, well, and I love, like, after that fight, too, because I said something. I posted a video. Do you see the video of me scrambling with Kamaru Usman, like the crazy, like,
that was awesome.
And I said, if all he has is wrestling, how do you beat a man who can't be taken down? You know,
right?
And I got so many messages from, you know, Russian guys that just said Khabib time, you know,
right,
and it's just
of
course, you know, and it's like, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, man, where, I mean, that fight with Eddie, I mean, that fight with Khabib, it's exciting, you know.
Kamaru Usman has got to be going fucking crazy right now, seeing Colby Covington getting a shot at the interim title. He's like, you motherfuckers.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
nobody wants to fight that dude.
No, I wouldn't. I mean, that dude is, I mean, he's a specimen. He's got wrestling. He's got striking. I mean, you watch him spar, or you watch him hit mitts, or you watch his composure and his confidence while he's sparring and doing all that kind of stuff. You'd think he's been striking since he was 11 years old. You know, he just started after college, you know.
Well, he had a tough fight with
Meek Mill?
Yeah.
Emil Meek or whatever?
Emil Meek. But I think that Emil Meek is extremely underrated.
Extremely underrated.
I mean, he's a fucking tough guy. Very physically strong. Very, very strong.
I was Emil Meek a couple times. I was like trying to mimic him.
Oh, were you in training camp?
Yeah, we were there at the same time. And he's done that. Him and I train a ton together. And it works out well for me because he's a bigger guy. I like to go with a little bit bigger guys so I can just continue to get stronger and manipulate bodies that are bigger than mine, you know?
Yeah, and a lot of people were criticizing him for not being able to finish Meek, but I'm like, you're crazy.
Yeah.
That guy is a fucking animal.
It's nuts the amount of people, you know, armchair quarterbacks that are literally out there saying you should have finished this guy.
Yes.
We are all professional fighters training day in and day out. It's not easy to finish a guy sometimes.
Well, that's why I was saying you got to stay the fuck away from your Twitter mentions.
Yeah. It's like, man, it just blows me. Oh my goodness.
Well, especially for a guy like you, if you do have something like an ankle injury, like that one fight, and then you got to stay offline.
Yeah.
For a few weeks.
For sure. Oh, I mean, I still get it to this day. Well, are you training? Are you working on your rubber ankles? Are you know? It's like, oh,
these
come on,
motherfuckers. They know where your soft spot is.
Nah, man.
They start poking you.
That's good.